Well, hello, Dave Hill here again today, and welcome to Lesson 15. I hope you've been studying hard and working hard at home and learning a lot. I'm having a lot of fun making these lessons. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. We've been working hard on major scales, and we've been working hard on pentatonic scales, both major and minor. But let's talk about some more sequences for major scales today to really get our fingers warmed up and give us some other things to do to get our major scales learned better. Okay, so you understand my charts. Actually, we don't want to talk about that, but we can look at it loosely if you'd like. These pentatonic patterns that I had from our last lesson can actually be utilized to show you some of the things that we're going to do in our lesson today. So, for example, this pattern right here of a major pentatonic is very close to our minor pentatonic. Okay, and this pattern right here is very close to our major scale. All we have to do is just add the remaining notes, and we've got a major scale again. Remember how we did that before? Nice. Okay. And this is actually, once again, a major scale. Okay, and the major scale root right here. Okay, so we're going to use that scale now. Like we've learned it before, but I'm just showing you again. We're going to use it now to work on a new sequence of scales. Okay, so let's talk about that. We've learned thirds before. They go like this. The third sequence was this. I showed you that. I believe that was in week 9 or lesson 9. Once again, that was called diatonic thirds. Okay, and that's a great way to develop your alternate picking and your knowledge of the scale, and basically to warm up. There's a variety of the things you can get out of that. Let's do that again for warm up. This is a review, but it's good to review. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Backwards. Okay, so that was a major third sequence. Okay, that's simply called a major third because it's the thirds of the scale are ascending. Diatonic thirds. Okay, we're going to do that today, but we're going to apply it to the next interval that we can play in the diatonic scale, and that is diatonic fourths. So called diatonic fourths because of the nature of the intervals. Every fourth interval is played as we ascend. So it's going to sound like this then. Okay, that's called a diatonic fourth sequence, and I've written that on the board right here. Okay, you can see the notes on the staff. I only got this high, but I wanted you to continue the sequence yourself, and I've also written it in tablature right here, so you can see there's a lot of barring with your fingers. Right? And if it kept going, eventually you get to the point where you have to do this, where you actually skip over the string, skip over the B string. And that would be the highest interval that you could play in that position. So, that's an excellent one for your fingers because it puts you in a technique of barring a lot. I don't mean going to bars, going out to bars. I mean barring right here. Okay, important distinction, right? Right, Daniel? You got that? Okay, and then continuing. And then you could turn around and come backwards. Okay, so it's another interval sequence to practice. You can also make music with it. You can improvise melodies with fourth intervals. Thirds are probably more common and more melodic, but fourths also have their place. Okay, so let's do that together now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Backwards now. Okay. Now I really want you to hear something that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to detach the notes so they don't ring together, because when you bar, it's very easy to let the notes ring together because you're fretting down the same fret and the notes can ring. But I don't want you to do that because you don't want it to sound like a chord necessarily. So I try to pick up my fingers just a little bit so they detach the notes. So try to do that at home when you're practicing. So, let's do it again, a little faster. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, so that's our next sequence to practice. I want you to do that every day for technique, in addition to the other things that we've already been working on. Okay, so we've got a number of sequences in pentatonic, and we've got a number of sequences now too, at least for major scales. So this is all part of the process of getting better at learning the neck and also building your technique. Okay, so I trust you'll do that at home. Okay, so that was the pattern. This pattern right here, I would call that pattern 4, C major, okay? And eventually, as you can assume, you're going to want to do that in other positions too. So you can do this right here. And the tablature shows you where to do it in basically 8th position. But there's no reason why you can't also do it here in your own time, right? You can play the same sequence. It's a different fingering, but it's basically the same concept of C major in diatonic fourths. So you'll get to that later, because you want to do every one of these sequences I show you in different positions. Okay, so I've given it to you as a start in that pattern right there. Okay, now let's change the subject here for a minute and get back into using some of the skills that we've learned up to this point. Okay, so we've talked about playing blues and the pentatonic scales that we use over blues. We've talked extensively about that, and I've shown you how to get the most out of pentatonic scales. Well, I have to tell you that sometimes you play music where you combine blues type sounds mixed in with more diatonic major type sounds. Okay, and you want to know how to do that, and you want to get good at practicing that kind of stuff. So I've come up with a progression that I thought would give you a good example of how you could practice that, and something that you could work on that would get that together. Okay, so here's my progression now. I don't want to confuse you here with anything. So I'm going to erase a little bit of this so